Welcome to Biggest Spoilars, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
General Hospital recap for Tuesday, November 18th, reveals that Britt Westbourne pledged to arsonist the entire operation unless her demands were met. Carly Spencer also went through with a sickening Jack Brennan charade, so then's how Tuesday's instigated GH occasion played out. In Brennan's suite, Carly arrived with wine and agreed about the distance between them when Brennan brought it up. Still, Carly acted like she was ready to accept who Brennan was and put all their issues behind them. Brennan got evidence that Carly wasn't going to back out before he began kissing her neck on the lounge. Carly looked shocked and was visibly relieved when a WSB phone call forced Brennan back to the office, which saved her from getting passionate with him. In Laura Collins' office, she bothered about the effect her public outburst would have on the election, but Sonny Corinthos told her to look at the commentary since numerous people considered her a defensive badass. Indeed so, Laura had enterprises about the future of Port Charles if Ezra Boyle won, especially since that could give Jen Sidwell the upper hand in Port Charles. After Laura and Sonny bandied all the Rocco Falconeri drama, Sonny suggested that Professor Henry Hank Dalton could still change his bogus story or that someone might change it for him. In Britt's room above Bobby's, she tried to move Jason that Danny Morgan demanded to come forward for Rocco's sake. Jason couldn't agree to that and suggested they demanded to find another way to help Rocco. At the PCPD, Nathan West was surprised when Danny and Charlotte Cassadine showed up to turn themselves in for being part of Rocco's lab break heft. In the interrogation room, Nathan used a recording device to take Charlotte and Danny's statements. Danny and Charlotte revealed the story of their illegal beast testing reservations and how they hadn't done any damage to the lab before Rocco offered himself. Nathan eventually got another Bobby to get him Jason's contact information, so he called Jason down to the station after admitting it was about Danny. In the police manager's office, Dante Falconeri gave Lulu Spencer updates on Giovanni Gio Palmieri and Emma Scorpio Drake roping the teens into the lab break-in mess. Dante criticized himself for letting Gio get too close to Rocco, but Lulu felt that Rocco, Danny, and Charlotte were all responsible for their choices, too. Since Charlotte and Rocco had developed a habit of keeping secrets from their parents, Dante and Lulu knew they'd have to work on that. Nathan ultimately entered with news on Charlotte, so it wasn't long until Dante and Lulu set out about her turning herself in along with Danny. In Alexis Davis's office, Rick Lansing helped Alexis make sense of Portia Robinson's blackmail jam and why she'd have motive to shoot Drew Kane. After Jason called Alexis to come help Danny, she let Rick know what was going on and headed to the PCPD with him. As for Nathan, he claimed he was a little gravel on procedures and told the teens that their statements wouldn't count without their parents present. Danny and Charlotte were ready to give their statements for real this time, but Dante, Lulu, and Jason shut that idea down originally. A little latterly, Rick met with Dante and Lulu to bandy a way to save Rocco by proving Dalton gave the Bobbies phony substantiation. The DA's office would be forced to make Dalton for filing a false report. Alexis spelled out the strategy during her own discussion with Danny, Charlotte, and Jason as well. The thing was for Charlotte and Danny to help prove Dalton's statement was a fabrication, which would turn the tables on Dalton and make him the defendant. At Windmere, Marco Rios filled Sidwell in on how Dalton had made effects worse by faking the lab destruction and trouble of a dangerous accoutrements leak. Marco wondered if Sidwell should seek help from his riddle mate, but Sidwell made it clear that his identity was only given on a need-to-know base. Talk turned to how to handle Dalton, so Marco expressed concern about infuriating him up more since he knew where all the bodies were buried, so to speak. Sidwell refocused out that if Dalton went down, also their problems went down, too. Once Britt showed up for a private discussion with Sidwell, he claimed he'd nothing to do with Dalton making effects harder for Rocco. Britt also assured Sidwell that Rocco hadn't seen anything in the lab and wouldn't have been suitable to figure out what it was anyway. Britt argued against the idea that Rocco broke in because of his connection to her and acted like Rocco didn't indeed know she worked there. As Britt handed down a stern claim, she pushed Sidwell to put a leash on Dalton. However, Britt pledged to arsonist the entire operation, if Sidwell didn't get Dalton to drop the charges moment. General Hospital spoilers say Sidwell will indeed handle Dalton in his own way soon enough, General Hospital has Carly Spencer is in another poisonous relationship right now. This time, it's with the original WSB master. It's another Joe she doesn't belong with and who needs to go. But is Jack Brennan the worst Joe she's had in her life? Hardly. We're going to dive into Carly's 5 worst connections of all time. Some are so bad they make Jack look like a romantic lead from a Hallmark movie, not the lying, tricky creep that he is. I'm going to rank these connections of Carly's from 5 to 1, counting down to the absolute worst Joe she's been with. And just to be clear, I don't have Jack on the list because she's still with him right now when I'm making this. And we don't know how his and Carly's story will end. Perhaps he'll turn out to be a better Joe. We'll see. 5. Hijacking and passion. Carly's complicated relationship with Lorenzo Alcazar on General Hospital. Number 5 on the list is a character that I really like, and I love the actor that played him. I wish General Hospital would bring him back, and that's Lorenzo Alcazar. Still, Carly was abducted by Alcazar, if you flash back in 2003. He was obsessed with Carly and an adversary of Sonny Corinthos at the time. So, Alcazar snared Carly and held her on his yacht. Despite the hijacking, Alcazar captured Carly's attention, too. I mean, she didn't hold Brennan planning to abduct her against him moreover. So, it's kind of a weird thing to overlook further than formerly, right? After Sonny accidentally shot her in the head, as one does on a cleaner pieces, Carly got these really obsessively strong passions for Alcazar. She was having passionate dreams about him. And Carly ended up checking herself into Shady Brook, trying to shake off these passions, but they latterly wound up wedded. And Alcazar wanted to make all her dreams come true. The nethermost line was this relationship with Carly and Alcazar was poisonous because he and Sonny abominated each other and tried to kill each other further than formerly. And during that time, Carly had multiple, if I recall rightly, internal health gyrations and wound up institutionalized further than formerly. Latterly, when she got her head on straight, she called effects off with Lorenzo. But I remain a huge addict of Ted King who played the part, and I allowed. His chemistry with Laura Wright was off the maps. I would love to see Lorenzo and Carly try again, indeed though it was a mess and it was a poisonous relationship. Point 4. From periodical killer to stepson, the twisted saga of Carly and Franco Baldwin on GH. Next on the list, number 4 is Franco Baldwin, who's now dead and gone but was completely reformed before General Hospital killed him off. So, back in the day when James Franco began the part, he was an artist who got off on killing people and making a spectacle of it. He was a true sociopathic periodical killer. But Jason Morgan killed Franco, and that was that until GH hired Roger Howarth to play Todd Manning, his character from One Life to Live. But there was a action with Prospect Park, and Roger couldn't play the character. GH had to do commodity, so they revivified Frank. And ultimately they began to redeem him with Roger Howarth playing the part. When Franco got involved with Carly, she allowed. Franco was Jason's twin. And to be fair, Franco tried to be better for Carly. In fact, Franco saved Michael Corinthos from drowning, which impressed her. And it kind of made up for the fact that Franco had Michael ravished in captivity. But also latterly they did a retcon and said it wasn't true and that he didn't really arrange for it and he was actually trying to cover Michael. He surely did. Franco indeed picked his crazy mama, Heather Weber, to save Carly from her. Carly's treason and Franco's vengeance, but also Carly cheated on Franco with Sonny. And Franco gave Carly his unattractive choker he was using to catch on her and make recordings, and he got her and Sonny on tape recording confessing their places in A.J. Quartermain's murder. So, it got really poisonous when Franco awaited until their marriage day, where Michael was a guest. And Franco played the recording of Sonny confessing he shot A.J., which of course affrighted Michael because that's his biopater. And it blew up their marriage just as Franco intended. It was such a messy split for Carly and Franco and actually one of her worst pairings. But it was good television. 3. A calculated treason. How Carly enticed her stepfather, Tony Jones on General Hospital. The Coming Joe is a relationship that was veritably beforehand on when Carly first came to Port Charles back when Sarah Joy Brown played the role. However, Carly was espoused, if you recall. Her mama, Bobby Spencer, was a teen courtesan when she got pregnant with Carly. So, Bobby gave up Carly for relinquishment, hoping she'd have a better life. And Bobby latterly turned her life around, went to nursing academy, made commodity of herself, and wedded Tony Jones. And that's the Joe who's the third worst relationship on my list. Carly came to Portia intent on ruining Bobby's life. She felt like her mama abandoned her and Carly wanted to make her pay. So part of the plan was to rip Bobby's marriage piecemeal. So Carly enticed Tony and made sure Bobby walked in on them. And of course, it was on their anniversary. Indeed worse, Carly got pregnant by AJ, but also she claimed Tony was the pater. That turned out to be a taradiddle. But at that point, her destroying his marriage and also taking away his stopgap that he was going to have this sprat, Carly had just pushed Tony off the deep end with all the mind games. So, he abducted Michael and Carly wound up shooting her stepdad turned nut, Tony. This was actually presumably Carly's worst relationship in terms of toxin, but I didn't rank it as number one because Tony, in the end, wasn't a horrible Joe. He was a decent Joe who really didn't earn what Carly did to him. He was contributory damage when Carly was ripping Bobby's life piecemeal. And Tony's response and his over-the-top jest after that was actually accessible. It was such a adulatory story. Point 2. Crapulous nights and deception. The messy GH history of Carly and AJ Quartermain. Next on my list is Carly and AJ. This was a mess from the jump because Carly crawled into bed with AJ the same time she was with Tony and tearing up Bobby's life. This was Carly's revengeful stage before she gutted up her act for the utmost part. She can still be revengeful. So, AJ and Carly hooked up drunkenly one night and she turned up pregnant. AJ quit drinking and tried to fly right. But also, Carly principally pushed him off the cart by remedying AJ and also jilting him in an alley so he'd wake up soaked in booze, which she poured on him, to make him feel like a drunk again. Carly wanted AJ to leave city for recovery. She wanted him to stay down from her future baby, who would turn out to be Michael. And he didn't fall for it. AJ demanded a DNA test. And also Carly prayed Jason to step by and lie and say the sprout was his. Many times latterly, Robin Scorpio told AJ the verity. He was Michael's pater. AJ smoothed effects over with Carly. They got married. But also she cheated with Sonny and got pregnant. And while arguing with AJ, she fell down some stairs and misfired, which transferred Sonny off the deep end. He tortured AJ until he inked over guardianship rights of Michael. Getting involved with Carly put AJ on a path to wind up shot dead by Sonny. Still, Ava Jerome had a part in that, too. And AJ wasn't like an Astral Joe to start with. He was just troubled. It was a whole big meddled up deal. And the only good thing to come of AJ's relationship with Carly was Michael. 1. The downfall of a decent man. Why Drew Kane ranks as Carly's worst relationship on General Hospital. The number one worst relationship on our list for Carly is her and Congressman Cutthroat Drew Kane simply because he's so infernal awful. Now, I'll give Carly credit in that he wasn't horrible when she got involved with him. But because of how effects went with their relationship, he turned so awful. I do suppose that the time he spent in captivity where he went to cover Carly is largely to condemn for his station shift. I wouldn't say that Drew being with Carly ruined him. But I'll say if Drew hadn't been with Carly and hadn't gone to captivity, effects in his life may be veritably different right now. Because he used to be a decent Joe who knew right from wrong until he got with Carly. And also while he told her not to do it, she did it anyway. The insider trading catastrophe on General Hospital dragged him into her bigwig trading thing that she no way should have been doing. At the same time, Drew was making his own choices. He's the bone. Who decided to be with Carly? And Drew was the bone. Who decided to go to captivity for Carly? And while he was in there and nearly failed, some kind of flip sounded to be switched. Once he was out, it was clear Drew had lost it. He just entwined incontinently. This happened towards the end of their relationship when everything got so awful. He fired Nina Reeves and also forced Carly to run Crimson Indeed though she didn't want to. And also principally turned around and fired her and rehired Nina. Also he preemptively ditched Carly when Jason turned up alive, assuming the worst when it didn't inescapably have to go that way. And also of course started banging Nina in secret, just so messy. So perhaps Drew was always going to end up awful and effects with Carly just accelerated it. But just because of how awful of a Joe he's with no end in sight, no redemption that seems possible, I've rated Drew as the worst relationship ever in Carly's life. Do you agree? In the grand, often tragic, opera of Port Charles, secrets are not merely kept, they are interred, buried deep beneath layers of good intentions, desperate rationalizations, and the fragile facade of normalcy. Yet, the truth possesses an almost gravitational pull, an inevitable force that ensures no burial is permanent. The impending revelation that Stella Henry unearths the DNA test results confirming Trina Robinson's paternity, and Portia Robinson's subsequent, frantic denial, is not just a plot point. It is a seismic event, a narrative earthquake that will send fault lines radiating through the very foundation of multiple families. This moment represents a brutal baptism for Trina into a painful reality, the evaporation of encouraging words that have sustained her for a lifetime, and the genesis of angry threats that will redefine her relationships forever. This is the story of a lie born from love, the collateral damage of its exposure, and the arduous, painful journey toward a truth that everyone, in some way, may come to wish had remained hidden. The guardian at the gate, Stella Henry, and the burden of knowledge. Stella Henry is the moral compass of her family, a woman whose strength is forged in faith, tradition, and an unshakable belief in facing life's challenges with integrity. Her relationship with her nephew, Curtis Ashford, is one of deep, mutual respect and love. She has watched him build his life, first with Jordan Ashford, and now, find a profound and stabilizing happiness with Portia Robinson. Stella has also embraced Trina with a grandmother's unconditional love, seeing in her the same spirit and intelligence she cherishes in Curtis. The discovery of the DNA test results will not be a moment of casual snooping, but likely one of devastating accident. Perhaps she is in Curtis's study at the Aurora mansion, looking for a document, and a misplaced folder spills its contents. Perhaps the results arrive by mail at a moment of vulnerability. However it happens, the moment Stella's eyes comprehend the words on that page, the scientific, irrefutable evidence that Curtis Ashford is Trina Robinson's biological father, her world, and her understanding of the family she holds dear, will be irrevocably shattered. Her initial reaction will be a complex cocktail of emotions. First, a surge of shock so profound it feels physical. Then, a wave of joy for Curtis, the joy of knowing he has a daughter, a legacy he never knew he had. This joy, however, will be immediately and violently tempered by a crushing sense of betrayal. Portia, a woman she welcomed into her family, has been living a lie for over 2 decades. She has deprived Curtis of his daughter's first steps, her first words, her childhood. She has deprived Trina of her real father. And she has allowed Stella herself to form a bond with Trina based on an incomplete truth. For Stella, this lie is a sin against the very principles she lives by. It is a corruption of family. Her mind will race, connecting the dots of the past, Portia's occasional hesitations, her sometimes overprotective nature regarding Trina's relationship with Curtis, the unspoken tensions that Stella, in her wisdom, likely sensed but could never name. The weight of this knowledge will become an unbearable burden. She is now the keeper of a secret that has the power to destroy everyone she loves. Her baptism into this truth is a painful one, forcing her to choose between her loyalty to Curtis and her desire to protect the fragile peace of the present. The architecture of a lie, Portia Robinson's justified deception. To understand the volcanic eruption of Portia's denial, one must first excavate the foundation of her lie. 20+ years ago, Portia was a young, ambitious medical student who had a passionate, complicated affair with Curtis Ashford. Their relationship, while intense, was unstable, caught in the crosscurrents of youth, ambition, and Curtis's own evolving path. When Portia discovered she was pregnant, the man she loved was not in a place, emotionally or situationally, to build a family. Perhaps he was focused on his business aspirations, perhaps their relationship was on the rocks. The specific reason matters less than Portia's perception, she believed, with the certainty of a young woman facing an impossible choice, that telling Curtis would chain him to a life he didn't want, or worse, that he would stay out of obligation, breeding resentment that would poison them all. Her decision to walk away, to raise Trina alone, was an act of immense, if misguided, strength. She constructed a new narrative, one with a phantom father who was out of the picture. She poured all her love, her intellect, and her resilience into her daughter, building a beautiful, successful life for the two of them. Trina became her entire world. Then, fate, in its cruel irony, brought Curtis back into their orbit. Not as a former lover, but as the fiancé of her colleague, and later, as a single man with whom she rekindled a deep, adult love. The lie, once a protective shell, now became a ticking time bomb. Every day of her relationship with Curtis was a day lived in the shadow of her secret. Every time she saw the easy, affectionate bond growing between Curtis and Trina, her heart must have swelled with a bittersweet agony. The encouraging words she offered Trina about Curtis, the joy she feigned at their growing closeness, were all layered over a bedrock of terror. When the truth began to knock, first with subtle suspicions and then with the looming threat of a DNA test, Portia's every action was that of a cornered animal. A mother's instinct to preserve the world she built for her child overrode all else. The lie was no longer just a secret, it was the very mortar holding her life together. The confrontation, denial as a fortress. The confrontation between Stella and Portia will be one of the most emotionally charged scenes in recent memory. It will not take place in public, but in a private space, perhaps Portia's home, a sanctuary that will suddenly feel like a tribunal. Stella, armed with the damning paper, will approach not with anger initially, but with a grievous disappointment. "Portia, what is this?" she will ask, her voice trembling with the effort to remain calm. "How could you keep this from him? From Trina? From all of us?" Portia's reaction will be instantaneous and visceral. This is the moment she has dreaded for 2 decades, the nightmare made manifest. Her denial will not be a calm, reasoned rebuttal. It will be a flood of panic, a fortress wall erected in a split second. "It's a mistake," she will likely cry out, her voice pitched high with fear. "Those tests are unreliable. Someone tampered with them." She will grasp at any plausible, or even implausible, explanation. She may even turn the accusation back on Stella. "Why were you going through Curtis's private things? You had no right." This is the desperate strategy of a person who cannot face the collapse of their reality. She will cite her love for Curtis, her love for Trina, as if the sheer force of that love can retroactively sanctify the deception. "I did what I did to protect my daughter," she will plead, her eyes begging Stella to understand. "I did it to protect Curtis from a past he had moved on from. You have to see that." She will implore Stella, with every fiber of her being, to bury the truth once more. "You can't tell him, Stella. You can't. It will destroy everything. It will destroy Trina. It will destroy Curtis. It will destroy us." Her encouraging words about family and love will now be weaponized in the service of perpetuating the lie. She will frame silence as an act of mercy, and truth-telling as an act of unimaginable cruelty. But Stella, rooted in her principles, will stand firm. The angry threats here are not shouted, they are quiet and devastating. Stella's threat is the truth itself. "This cannot stay in the dark, Portia," Stella will say, her voice heavy with sorrow. "A lie this size has its own life. It will come out. And the longer it's hidden, the more it will destroy when it does. Curtis has a right to know he has a daughter. Trina has a right to know her father." This clash is a fundamental battle of philosophies, Portia's utilitarian ethics, where a lie is justified to prevent greater pain, versus Stella's unwavering commitment to truth as the only foundation for authentic love and family. The collateral damage, a family fractured. The fallout from Stella's discovery and Portia's denial will be catastrophic and far-reaching. 1. Trina Robinson, a identity shattered. For Trina, this revelation will be the most brutal baptism imaginable. Her entire sense of self is built upon a specific history. To learn that the man she knew as a distant sperm donor is a fiction, and that the man she has grown to love and respect as her mother's partner is her biological father, will be an existential crisis. Who is she? Her relationship with her mother, once her bedrock, will be thrown into question. Every piece of life advice, every childhood story, every expression of love will be re-evaluated through the lens of this monumental deception. The encouraging words her mother has always given her will now taste like ash. The anger she will feel, at the lie, at the stolen time, at the manipulation of her own story, will be all-consuming. Her trust will be broken in a way she never thought possible. 2. Curtis Ashford, a fatherhood stolen. Curtis's world will be upended. The joy of discovering he has a daughter as remarkable as Trina will be utterly eclipsed by the fury of betrayal. He has missed everything. He wasn't there to hold her as a baby, to teach her to ride a bike, to give her advice, to protect her. Every memory he has of Trina from the past few years will be recontextualized with the agonizing question, I was her father, and I didn't know. His anger at Portia will be volcanic. The woman he loved, the woman he believed was his future, has perpetrated what he will see as the ultimate theft. His relationship with Portia will not simply end, it will be annihilated. The angry threats here will be real, threats of cutting her out of his life forever, threats of legal action, threats born from a pain so deep it can only express itself as rage. 3. The Robinson-Ashford mosaic. The extended family will be torn asunder. Jordan Ashford, Curtis's ex-wife, will be caught between her loyalty to Curtis and her professional and personal relationship with Portia. Marshall Ashford, Curtis's father, will grapple with the discovery of a granddaughter he never knew, and his own complicated history with family secrets. T.J. Ashford, who has seen Trina as a sister, will now have to process that she is, in fact, his cousin. The entire social fabric that connects the hospital, the police department, and the family homes of Port Charles will be strained. 4. The Corinthos connection. This turmoil will inevitably ripple outward. As Trina's boyfriend, Spencer Cassadine will be drawn into the maelstrom. His own history with manipulative parents and family lies will make him a uniquely understanding, yet fiercely protective, figure. He may become Trina's primary support system, even as his instinct might be to confront Portia and Curtis on her behalf, creating new conflicts. Furthermore, this family crisis will create a vulnerability that Port Charles's ever-present villains, like the emerging threat of Ezra Boyle and Jen Sidwell, could potentially exploit, using the emotional distraction to further their own agendas. The long road ahead, from angry threats to a painful reckoning. The initial phase will be dominated by anger, denial, and separation. Trina may leave home. Curtis will almost certainly banish Portia from his life. Stella will be left in the middle, revered by Curtis for her integrity, but potentially resented by others for being the messenger who shattered the peace. But soap operas, at their heart, are about the resilience of the human spirit and the painful, messy process of healing. After the angry threats have been shouted and the tears have been shed, a long and arduous journey of reckoning must begin. Portia will be forced to embark on a path of true atonement. She must move beyond denial and fully confront the magnitude of her choices, not just the intention behind them. She will need to apologize without justification, to understand the pain she has caused without demanding forgiveness. Curtis and Trina will face the Herculean task of building a father-daughter relationship from the rubble of deception. It will not be instantaneous. There will be awkwardness, resentment, and grief for the lost years. Their first Father's Day will be a minefield of emotion. But the genuine love and respect they already share provides a fragile foundation upon which to build something new and authentic.